So I've been receiving quite a bit of questions lately regarding home gyms and what the best equipment is to invest in moving forward, especially depending on where you live. If gyms are going to be closed for the foreseeable future, or if the gym you would have returned to is not going to survive this chaos, then you're likely going to want to continue training at adequate intensity relative to your physical capacity. So the question becomes, what do you invest in? And a great question came to me from an individual who already had a squat rack and barbell, and they wanted to know what should they be getting next? What's next on the list investment-wise? What should they be looking for in order to maximize their home gym and their ability to train and train hard? So this particular individual was both price conscious and space conscious, and this is often how home gym setups are actually developed. It's bootstrapping one piece at a time and adding to your foundation that you already have. So you likely get one piece, and then maybe a couple months down the road you add another one, and maybe you find some online that you can buy on sale used and things along those lines. So they wanted to know, based off of the limited amount of square footage that they had access to in their garage, as well as the fact that they were very price conscious, considering the fact that they were off work, what they should be purchasing next. So what I suggested was actually a landmine attachment, just like the one you see down on the ground here, and I'll explain exactly why I suggested that. So the first thing to be aware of is a landmine is very compact. Like, if we put this away beside the squat rack, it is completely out of the way. It does not impact your square footage at all. And this is important when considering equipment that you should be purchasing for a home gym setup. So when you buy a piece of equipment, what is the footprint on that piece of equipment? Because if you're limited in space and there's no way for you to expand that space, for example, if you have a basement setup and you can convince whoever you live with to get rid of the basement living room, you might have the ability to increase square footage. But if you're in a garage and it's 10 by 20, I highly doubt you're going to blow a wall out and make it 20 by 20. Now, I could be wrong, I've seen stranger things happen, but understanding that when you think long term, you want to think, how am I getting the most out of this square footage that I have available? What can I put in here that allows me to have access to the most versatility within reason, but also takes up the least amount of space? So a lot of pieces of equipment are very useful in the sense that when they're not in use, they don't take up space. And the landmine is a great example of that. When the landmine is not in use, it's gone. If it's streamlined with the squat rack itself, which means it's not a bother to anybody, it doesn't sit out in the middle of the floor. In theory, depending on the type of landmine attachment you get, you can very quickly unplug it and put it on a shelf if you so desired and if you were that organized as an individual. This one happens to be bolted right into the rack, so it's a little more cumbersome to take off, but the profile is so small that I'm not worried about that whatsoever. Now, where the big win is with a landmine attachment is actually the versatility of it. So, low profile piece, great, we've got that covered. If you're in a garage gym, that's going to be very useful because now you don't have to worry about the fact that this is going to constantly have to be moved every time you want to do a workout in which you require space. So whatever open space you might have, whether you want to use it for some sort of exercise that requires that space, or if you do want to fill it with other pieces of equipment in the future, this won't be a hindrance to you moving forward with either of those strategies. But the next big win is how many things you can do with one of these. To give you an example, I'm going to just put this training bar into the actual landmine attachment right now and kind of just roll through a bunch of different exercises that you can incorporate. And of course, this is not an exhaustive list, and I'm just throwing these off the cuff, but you've got chest press variations that you can incorporate. You've got single arm presses that you can incorporate. You've got shoulder exercises that you can incorporate, right? You've got different rowing variations, whether it be a single arm row from the side, you could go single arm landmine row, just like so. You can even go into a T-bar row, assuming you have an attachment pulling up to the chest, right? And we're not even getting into leg exercises. You have landmine squat variations. You have single leg deadlift variations, holding onto the landmine attachment and controlling down, under load, right? You've got core variation, oblique twist. Not to mention all of the different handles that companies make that you can actually put onto this sleeve as well. So the opportunities are really endless. I can think of 50, 60, 75 exercises just off the top of my head, slight variations that you can incorporate with the landmine attachment. That's not even getting into explosive exercise variations, nor is it getting into combinations like supersets that you can incorporate with these. So very versatile, and when you're done, barbell comes out, and the piece is gone. Now consider in comparison, for example, an incline bench press. Not just an adjustable bench, but an incline bench press. That piece, although an awesome piece, has a massive footprint. And other than introduce specialty bars in varying grip positions, there's not a whole lot you can do with it in terms of variety of exercise selection. So when you compare how much you can do with the landmine attachment as opposed to how much you can do with that massive piece of equipment, it becomes obvious that when you're limited in space and you're trying to maximize the square footage you have and the variety of exercise you can incorporate, that landmine attachment gives you a lot of bang for your buck. The best part is it's cost efficient as well. Let's consider that if you were to buy one of those incline benches, unless you could find a great one used, which is completely possible but rare right now, usually it's going to set you back at least a few $100s, if not a couple of thousand, depending on the quality that you're purchasing. And so considering that, this piece here, you could get a landmine attachment that goes right into a stack of weight plates for, I believe Rogue has them for $75. You could get one just like this for between $95 and $125. That's a steal considering how much you get out of it. So in terms of being budget conscious as well as space efficient, you'd be hard pressed to find a comparable piece of equipment that will maximize your home gym setup as well as contribute so progressively to your training regimen. So if you've been considering adding on to the equipment setup that you have at home and you weren't entirely sure of what to purchase next, whether you have your home gym set up in your garage, your basement, or your kitchen, yes, I've seen kitchen setups lately, regardless of where you have your equipment set up, if you don't already have a landmine attachment and you are hyper aware of the space that you have available and you want to maximize that space considering how many exercises you have access to with whatever pieces you add, I would get your hands on a landmine for sure. And as per always, if you happen to have any questions related to home gym setups or equipment purchases relating to cost efficiency, space efficiency, or variety of exercise that you can incorporate with a specific piece, make sure you send them my way and I'll be sure to answer them. Even unrelated questions, more related to training in general, send them my way. I've got you covered. And if you're not already following or subscribed, make sure you do so you never miss out on any of the content or questions that I answer.